All right, when I say car pollution, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably a big cloud of smoke from an exhaust pipe, right? Well, what if I told you that the biggest source of particle pollution from our cars today is completely invisible? Yeah. Today, we're diving into the shocking story of what's really coming off your tires. Let's just jump right in with a number that is, frankly, insane. 2,000 times. That's how much more particle pollution can come from your car's tires than from its modern, super clean exhaust. It's wild, right? We've spent decades cleaning up tailpipes, and in doing so, we've completely overlooked this other, much bigger problem. So, of course, the big question is, if it's not the exhaust, what on earth is this invisible pollution? Where's it coming from? And why is it so much worse? Okay, first things first, let's define what we're even talking about here. What is this stuff? Well, it's called tire wear particles, or TWPs for short. Basically, every time you drive, the friction between your tires and the road grinds off these teeny tiny fragments. But here's the kicker. And this is so important. This isn't just harmless little bits of rubber. No, it's this nasty cocktail of synthetic rubber, a bunch of chemicals, microplastics, and even heavy metals. And this is how it snuck up on us. While we were all, patting ourselves on the back for cleaning up exhaust fumes, this other kind of pollution from tires and brakes just quietly took over, to the point where today, in our cities, these non-exhaust emissions are actually the #1 source of particle pollution from traffic, the main problem. And we are not talking about a small problem here. The scale of this is, well, it's staggering. Let's put some numbers to it so you can really get a sense of how big this is. Get this. Every single year, cars and trucks around the world shed an estimated 6 million tons of these tire particles. 6 million tons. Just think about that. A mountain of this chemical-filled dust spreading across our roads, into our air, and into our water. So where does it all go? Well, a lot of it gets washed straight into our oceans. And this is where it gets really shocking. When scientists look at all the microplastics polluting our oceans, a mind-blowing 78% of it comes from just one thing: synthetic tire rubber. It's the single biggest source, hands down. It dwarfs pretty much everything else combined. Okay, so we've established there are millions of tons of this stuff ending up everywhere. The next logical question is, so what? What does that actually mean for our health and for the environment? For us humans, it's not good. These tire particles are so tiny, they're what's known as fine particulate matter. That means when you breathe them in, they can get deep, deep into your lungs and even your bloodstream. And as you can imagine, that's linked to a whole list of scary health problems. We're talking heart and lung diseases, developmental issues, and even an increased risk of cancer. And it's definitely not just us. The chemicals in this tire dust are straight up toxic to wildlife. I mean, one of the most well-known examples is what it does to salmon. When rain washes this stuff off the roads and into rivers, it can be absolutely lethal for them, wiping out entire populations of a really critical species. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but isn't this just road dust? And the answer is a hard no. Not even close. It's the chemical recipe that makes it so dangerous. You see, normal road dust is mostly just minerals, silicon, calcium, stuff like that. But tire particles, they're loaded with zinc, toxic organic compounds called PAHs, and a whole bunch of other things that make them uniquely, potently harmful. Okay, so if this is such a huge and dangerous problem, you're probably wondering, why isn't anyone doing anything about it? Well, the answer comes down to a massive roadblock in the world of regulation. Problem number 1, and it's a big one, at the federal level, tire wear isn't even officially recognized as a contaminant of concern. It's just not on the list. And if it's not officially a problem, you can't really make any rules to fix it. It's that simple. Then you've got problem number 2, secrecy. The exact chemical formulas that go into tires, they're proprietary. They're trade secrets. This means manufacturers don't have to tell anyone what's in them. And that makes it almost impossible for scientists to figure out just how dangerous they really are. And the third problem? Well, just letting the industry police itself isn't cutting it. I mean, there have been some voluntary programs, some promises, but they just haven't been enough to make a real dent in a problem this big. So clearly, we need a different approach. But it is not all doom and gloom, because while the regulators are stuck in neutral, innovators are hitting the accelerator. So let's shift gears and look at some of the really cool solutions that are literally reinventing the wheel. Right now, people are tackling this from 3 different directions. First, just making better materials for the tires themselves, more durable, less polluting. Second, figuring out how to capture the particles as they're being made. And third, taking a step back and rethinking the entire sustainable life cycle of a tire. So let's start with better materials. There's this company, Enzo, and they are going right to the heart of the problem. They've engineered a new kind of tire specifically designed from the ground up to be less polluting. And the results are pretty amazing. Their tires can cut particulate emissions by up to 35% compared to the regular tires on your car right now. I mean, that's a massive improvement just by changing the recipe. Okay, now for a totally different tactic, catching the pollution as it happens. A startup called the Tire Collective has this really brilliant device. It mounts right on the vehicle, near the wheel, and it uses static electricity, like when a balloon sticks to your hair, to grab the tire dust as it flies off. It can actually capture 60% of the airborne particles before they even get a chance to escape. And then there's the third path, which is all about the big picture of sustainability. This means things like designing tires that roll more easily, which saves fuel. It means using renewable materials, things like wood, lignin, or even soybean oil, instead of fossil fuels. And, of course, creating a real circular economy where old tires actually get recycled back into new ones. But even with all these incredible innovations, there's still a fundamental challenge we have to face. As researchers are quick to point out, the chemical cocktail in these tire particles changes from one brand to another. And that variability makes it a nightmare to try and monitor and regulate effectively. It's a huge hurdle we still have to clear. And all of this brings us to one last really critical question for the future. You know, electric vehicles are amazing for getting rid of tailpipe pollution, but they're also a lot heavier, and that extra weight can actually make tires wear out faster. So as we race towards this cleaner revolution, how are we going to make sure we don't just trade one pollution problem for another, leaving this dirty, invisible secret all over our roads?